What's up, Dragon Brood? So today we're stepping into Zendikar Rising Standard for the first time. So that's right, we have finally made it to the month of September. We are just before release of Zendikar Rising, and it's time for a standard rotation. Now it's kind of a weird time, but here's what's going to happen. I'm going to be putting out deck lists every day, probably 2 or 3 a day between now and the release. So between now and us getting to play the Streamer Early Access event, we're going to probably put out 12-ish deck lists. So it's going to be a lot coming in a very short order. That being said, the set doesn't go live until next Thursday, so you're going to have plenty of time to download these lists, learn the cards, see people play with them, and be ready to go at release time. Cool part is there's a bunch of cool things in this set, some leading to new decks, some really cool cards to kind of buff up these older decks. So hopefully you won't have to spend so many wild cards to build some of the stuff. However, some of them you are going to need to spend 8 or 10 wild cards to get where we're trying to go. Because, it's a new standard, so we're building some brand new stuff in some cases. But today we're going to start with Mono Green Aggro. And there's going to be some surprising cards in this list that I think you're going to like. But before we get into it, remember to like this video to help us get in front of more people. Hit that subscription bell to let me know how much you love me. And then hit the notification bell because, well, that's for you, so you know every time I have a video up. And there's going to be a lot of them coming in the next few days if you're looking for Zendikar deck lists. So make sure you don't miss that. Now, let's go take a look at this Mono Green Aggro post-rotation. Alright, I want to let you know, as usual, you will be able to go right down into the links below and get the deck list. So if you just want to have that in arena ready to go, feel free to hit that Aetherhub link, download the deck list. Also, check out my other stuff if you want to join my Discord or Patreon or anything else that we have going on. Alright, so starting at the top, we are playing Swarm Shambler. Now, this isn't the most impressive 1/1 creature. I understand that. It's a 1/1 for 1. However, it can tap to start buffing itself up and getting counters. Additionally, it gives you a +1/+1 insect token if something you control with a +1/+1 is targeted by your opponent. Secret, we're going to have a lot of things with +1/+1s in this list, so it's going to be a pretty good card. We are playing 4 of those. We are playing 4 Ramthurs. This is kind of our removal of choice in this deck because 1, it's instant speed, which is great. It's a bite and not a fight, which is awesome, so you don't have to put your creature at risk. It's low cost. All very good things for what we're trying to do. Scavenging ooze, we're playing 3 of these. It shouldn't be a surprise to you. It's a card you're seeing in a lot of lists, and it does get +1/+1 counters. So this again comes back to that shambling swarm. Swarm Shambler, I should say, doing what it's trying to do. Now, this was the other spot. Trying to decide the other 2-mana creature was actually a tough decision, because there's also stuff like it's Tajiru something or other, the 3/2 elf. The problem was we weren't going to be playing anything else, so if we ever decided to kick it, we would never get its other ability, which was a little bit disappointing. However, with the Nessian Horn Beetle, it does get counters, and this again feeds into getting those +1/+1 counters in this deck. And we have several things that are 4 power, so it should be able to grow pretty easily. So it's not my favorite card, but it is a 2/2. It's very easy to become a 3/3 or a 4/4 and get a little bit out of hand for your opponent if they let it sit on the table. Now, Orn Reef Ooze. This is one of the other new cards that I wanted to give some attention to. It's 2 colorless and a green for a 2/2. When it comes into play, you choose a creature you control to put a +1/+1 counter on it. Then when it attacks, all other attacking creatures with a +1/+1 on them get an additional +1/+1. So again, basically all the creatures we've talked about so far in this X list are getting +1/+1 counters in some way, shape, or form. So this is going to allow you to pump up your army. The other thing about this card that's very good is, I think people overlook this, is even when you play it by itself, you can have it come into play, put a +1 on itself. So it's a 3/3. Then when it attacks, it's attacking as a 4/4. So you effectively got a 4/4 creature for 3 mana. That's pretty strong. And then if it doesn't die, then it's progressively bigger. A 5/5, a 6/6, and it's pumping all the rest of your team while you do this. Something not to be overlooked. It's a very good card. Now, we're stepping into some other stuff we already know about, like Yorvo. We're playing 3 of these. And again, I'm saying the words again, +1/+1 counter, right? This is becoming a theme with this deck. The only things that won't have +1/+1s are going to be things that just do a good thing on their own that we feel the need to have. But for the most part, if it's not, and it needs a little boost, it's going to be getting help from the form of those counters. And Yorvo works perfectly in this list because everything is a green creature, so should have no problem getting to buff Yorvo up at all. We've seen him in enough of the list, so shouldn't be a surprise. If you don't know what Yorvo is, it's 3 green. It's a 0/0 creature that comes into play with 4 +1/+1 counters on it. And then every time you play a green creature, it gets +1/+1. And if the creature is bigger than Yorvo, it gets 2 +1/+1 counters. And just like we were talking about, some creatures aren't going to necessarily do something big and over the top with these +1/+1s because sometimes they're just solid. In that case, we are playing Garrix Harbinger and we are playing 4 of them. Part of the and again, let me point out, I understand it's pronounced Harbinger. I read enough fantasy stuff to know. But I'm a little Southern country and sometimes I like memeing up words because they sound good when you're country. So yeah, Harbinger, I get it. In all seriousness though, the Harbinger is going to be pretty big because even some of the new removal spells in Zendikar, some of the best ones are black, especially the modal ones that have stuff on the back, lands on the backside, are actually going to be getting played. So anything that can protect you from those spells is probably better. This also ends up drawing cards if it sneaks through, and that's something that can't be overlooked. So definitely keeping this card in. We're going to try it out for now, see what happens. Also, being able to play this the turn after you play a Nessian Horn Beetle guarantees the Horn Beetle goes up to being a 3/3 and then get an attack with a bigger creature. So it has a few things it is doing, even just being what it is. Now here's another new card I want to talk about, the Kaizandu Mammoth. This is probably going to be one of the cards you see show up in a lot of my deck lists. The main reason is this lets you skimp on land, but also get a significant threat out of the deal. So it's a 3 mana 3/3 with landfall. Every time you have a land come into play, it gets +2/+2. So you're effectively going to have the option to attack with a 5/5 if you so choose, which is pretty powerful. But the best thing about it is that we are going to be playing very few lands in this list, or as few as we can get away with. And cards like this allow us to draw more threats later and not so many forests. So that's really good here. We're starting out with just 3 in the list, I believe, is what I have together. But who knows? Maybe we go up to 4 by the time of the set being legal. We're playing 1, count them, 1 Garrick Unleashed. Just as a little bonus to maybe be able to get the trample to help out, especially when we're talking about something like the Harbinger. If you want to just make something big enough to punch through their big creature. Occasionally you will make a beast, but not that often. We're really going to be playing for the trample, and if we can, just getting to the ultimate really on this card. We're playing 3 Gem Razors. And I kind of wanted 4, I kind of wanted none. It's just in a weird spot. It works great with this list though, because we have so many things with +1/+1 counters. And remember, those counters go on top of whatever the changes you put onto your creature with the Gem Razor. And with us having several creatures that are 0/0s, they're basically getting +4/+4 when you put a Gem Razor on it. Plus, you get all their counters, and you get trample, which is a pretty big deal. And the other creatures that are getting trample, getting the tokens, you just putting a Gem Razor on it means you're getting +2/+2 effectively, and then whatever counters they have. So not to be overlooked in this list. I also wanted to have some way to deal with artifacts and enchantments main deck, because there's a good chance some people right after release are still going to be wanting to play stuff like their adventure list, right? Because they already own all the cards. They haven't had time to open packs or chase down the cards they want yet, or even figure out what they want to spend their wildcard resources on. Totally understandable. But if people are, you're going to want at least a few ways to be able to try to tackle those lucky clovers. Gem Razor's the card to help us do that, while also giving us a way to try to push for a big win later in the game. Questing Beasts. We all know and love the Questing Beasts. We're playing it. There are 4 of them. It's got a text box. It does like 8 things. Not much else to say about it. The best thing we can play for 4 mana. We're playing 2 Vivian Monsters Advocate. And I think, some people are going to look at this and be like, hey, why are you playing Vivians more Vivians than you're playing of Garrix? Why is it just not 2 Garrix or 3 Garrix? The main reason is when you're going into a format where you don't know what people are going to play, when you have a planeswalker that can get you extra creatures every turn, that's safer than the one that really needs to have other creatures out there or other things on the table to do what it's trying to do. Like, for all we know, some of the best decks can include a bunch of creature sweepers and things like that. Then just having something like Vivian's going to be great. You're just going to make a 3/3, make a 3/3, make a 3/3 perpetually, right? Nothing wrong with that. The other thing is, too, might go up against a bunch of stuff that is flying. Vivian can let us make things that have reach. Awesome. Though, don't forget, the Gem Razor also has reach. But it lets us do a lot of things. And remember, Vivian also lets you play creatures off the top, and this deck is full of creatures. I think because of the Mammoths, we're playing something like 32 creatures or something. Probably one of the higher number of creatures I've played in a mono green deck ever, probably. So that's also very important. You're going to have a really good chance of hitting extra creatures off the top. And you can get in situations late where if you need to find something, like say you want to get a Scavenging Ooze to remove something from their graveyard or whatever, or shrink their graveyards, or even your graveyards if you're playing against something like the rogue decks that need to have 8 cards in your yard, you could play that, minusing Vivian, play a creature, go get whatever thing, you know, your Scavenging Ooze to start moving stuff from your graveyard. So it's got a few uses that are being provided that you're not getting from Garrick. And then the last of the new cards we're playing are 2 Turn Timber Symbiote, or Symbiosis, I should say. The card itself is not great. It is 7 mana, but it does let you look at the top 7 cards. If you end up getting a small creature out of that, it gets +3/+3 in the form of counters, which again comes back to the theme of the deck of getting the +1/+1 counters. But if not, you just get one of your bigger creatures and you're good to go, right? Most likely going to be trying to get a Questing Beast in most cases, I'd imagine. But the other thing is the backside lets us skimp on lands again, because the backside is one of the lands that you can pay 3 life, have the land come into play untapped. It is a sorcery, so that's a little bit of a downside, but for what it does and giving you the flexibility of having lands on the back, it's pretty good. You're probably going to see this in a lot of lists as well. But let's go ahead while we're talking about lands and take a look here. I know this looks a little weird, but we're playing 16 Forests, 3 Castle Garenbrig, and 1 Bonder's Enclave, full stop, right? And honestly, it's probably too many lands. Because if you think about it, we have 20 lands. We've got the 3 Mammoths, so that's 23. We have the 2 Turn Timber Symbiosis, that's 25. We wouldn't normally play 25 lands in this list. So I would think by the time we get to release, after I've messed around with this list a little bit and tweaked it, we're probably going to be down to 18 actual lands plus 5 double-faced lands. Probably one of those being a Mammoth, and I don't even know what I would want the other one to be yet. So we'd have to figure that out. The other thing probably is just a regular spell and not a double-faced card. But that would still leave us the option to have 24 lands and still do whatever we want to do. And it gives us fewer dead draws later in the game. Alright, so I hope that's a good introductory to how you can deck build some of the stuff in Zendikar. We're going to have a bunch of stuff coming out here, like I said, in the next couple of days. We're going to have 2, sometimes 3 deck lists a day. Just kind of as I get them done, I'm going to be able to pump them out and just set them to start launching on YouTube. So remember to like this video, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, because you don't want to miss when these deck lists are up. And remember, you will be able to always get the deck list down below in the description. And anything else you want to find about any of my other efforts and whatnot, please check that out. And I want to tell everybody, if you want some of the different stuff, I know some of you that follow my channel have seen like my blackberries in my yard, you've seen my chickens or whatever. I now have a different channel just where I'm putting all that for people who want to see more about that stuff. It is called PowrDragn Outdoors. Feel free to look it up on YouTube. Come hit the like button over there, or the subscribe button, and support me. It'll be fun, I promise. And it's going to be super chill. I'm already chill here, but it's going to be super chill over there. But that is all I have for now. We'll see you next time.